who work in the factories trying to secure their rights, providing pastoral education for counselors so that they can minister to those who are in need. And more importantly, at that period in the 60s, an engagement in the civil rights struggle. And none other than Martin Luther King, who was finishing his doctorate program at that time, felt that he had been trained in that tradition in the school of the prophets, and took up leadership in the civil rights struggle. His mentors that he publicly acknowledged were the professors in that seminary. For the seminary was so open, even in that period, he had opened his doors for other points of view. And within his faculty, and I studied under them, were Hindus in mission studies in spirituality. Another old black saint of the church, Howard Thurman, was a chaplain in the university chapel. And I sat for one whole year taking that course of spiritual resources and discipline. And is still regarded as one of the saints of the Black Christian movement. Today, even in the seminary and in the university, Eli Wiesel, a Nobel Prize winner, and a survivor of the Holocaust, is in the faculty. And I just read a piece and how he has set up a foundation to help the people, the Eli Wiesel Foundation to help the people, was wrongly advised and invested in Maddox. And he had no kind words to say about Maddox when he lost all his money because of the Ponzi scheme that he was involved in. So it was that kind of an academic atmosphere that I had the privilege to be in. And how else can I be what I am today? Now I'm surrounded with my sisters and brothers who keep one another honest with our Christian convictions, willing and daring to come out and express our own theological orientation. I count in my circle of friends those in other faith communities, willing to hold true to their own religious beliefs and convictions, but also respecting differences and open to learn from one another and together search for greater truth and greater clarity in our understanding of faith. So with these experiences that I can recall, I have this understanding of Christian faith. I have this concept of the God who relates to me and to the rest of creation. Back to this experience, I was led now to interpret it in a religious way. My fundamental basis in my own religious journey, in my own faith, is that we have a living God who's our creator. And all creation is groaning in travail. It's not a finished product. It's groaning in travail and evolving. Our Creator has made each one of us different and tasked us to fulfill the very purpose of creation. Another fundamental principle is that God has endowed in each one of us the very spirit of freedom to decide. We are not puppets on the sea. We are not being manipulated. We have the freedom of choice to what we choose. God has to deal with the consequences. When I was picked out of the darkened theater to be a victim of abuse, the Japanese soldiers did not know me, and I was completely innocent. When I was tossed around and almost through the door of death, it was a decision that the soldiers made. Where was God at that time? When almost a killing of the innocent took place. God must have known that I was innocent. The soldiers themselves later recognized that and released me from the cell. But God did not intervene directly and stop the torture. My earthly father intervened at a great risk to himself. He must also have been formed by odd experiences in his life, but felt that it was his fatherly duty to come to the side of his son and face the consequences. Now I know that God works in a mysterious way, that he too has to rely, God too has to rely on the human decision, the decision that my father made and the decision that the soldiers made. This is the way that God works most of the time. Not directly. No heavenly angels were dispatched to correct a bad situation when bad things happen. But God is always present, luring and persuading, because He had given freedom to the people to decide, hoping that they will make right decision. And when we do not, God will try to repair the damage done, damage control. My God is a very patient and living God, always present, always forgiving. That is why I can live in hope. In spite of the darkest days in our lives, when we feel forsaken and rejected and oppressed, someday, somewhere, people will make the right choices which are pleasing to God and help to shape our future. When I was snatched from the jaws of death, I began to realize, even at that age, what life means. What is the future for a handicapped person? And I put my heart to it and availed of the opportunities that were around. I knew that this life is valuable. God has created me and I came into being, knitted in my mother's womb, as you were. Nurtured to family, friends, and community.